I'm going to begin my soft fold Roman shade with a cut board. I cut the board 1/4 of an inch shorter than the inside measurement of the frame. So I'm going to cover the board, folding the end of the fabric on one end and the end of the fabric on the other. I don't want the fabric to be folded over because that'll interfere with the measurement between the board and the frame of the window. I usually start in the middle and work my way out so it's not wrinkled. Before I move on to the lining, we have to put the eye hooks that hold the string that pull the Roman shade up and down 1 inch from the edge. We have it on both sides. I tap in the eye hook. Sometimes it's hard to get in, and then I go ahead and screw it in. Kind of spare your fingers. I usually put a screwdriver or pencil, and that will hold it in. And I do both sides. Before I attach the shade, I want to create pilot holes for mounting this inside the window. You may have a drill or you may use a screwdriver. Either way is pretty good. But what I'm doing is I'm going all the way through. I'm going to hold on to the board tightly because the fabric can get kind of caught up in the drilling. I'm removing the screw, and I will use that hole later on both ends to mount this up inside the window. I recommend ironing all the creases and wrinkles out before you begin. Once we iron, we'll go ahead and lay the lining in and start pinning. I'm using a lining on this. It's a blackout lining that I pulled out of another drape that I had worked on. I had used drapes and cut it into Roman shades, and so I had this left over. You could use bleached muslin, unbleached muslin. You can use a sheet from Walmart for $5, just a little twin sheet. So whatever white fabric you have laying around or whatever suits you. Anyway, the best thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 3 fingers out. That's about 2 inches. And what that's going to do is give me a 1 inch hem on each side. The lining is cut the exact width of the window frame, and it will mount on the board that we have. The length is 3 inches longer than the original window that we're mounting it in. And I'm folding this over. It will be a 1 inch hem on this side. I usually start this way. I don't cut until I have to make a cut on the other side. Then I'll double check the measurement, and then we'll fold that hem on the other side. I'll go all the way down the fabric. The window that I'm doing, it's a little bathroom window, is 35 inches wide. I'm measuring from the other edge of the hem that I created and measuring out. I'll do this all the way down, make sure I've got this cut even. This lining's a little bit wonky, and so it's kind of shifted around a little bit. I'm trimming out the excess, so this is the width of the window. Well, I did cut that kind of bad, didn't I? It's about 3 inches from the, or 3 fingers. It's about 2 inches from the edge. Now that this all trimmed out, I'm going to fold this over and make the other hem on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and pin this. It's nice and even. And I always hand stitch these hems. It looks much more professional and neater. I'm putting a hem in the bottom of the Roman shade. It's the same with the 1 inch hem double folded over. I'm using my table to create the square. I've got my side of the panel here, and this is the bottom. And I'm coming along from the middle. I usually work out from the middle and go to the end, and right here I create my miter. The actual inside length of the window size is 36 inches. I don't have some great formula. I just pretend like I know something. But I'm going to show you how I do it. Is we need a backdrop, and that's our first fold. Then we want 2 folds. Here's our 36-inch mark. We want 2 folds after that, so when we draw them up, it'll only be probably about 7 inches long. Let's see if I'm lying. Oh my gosh, I know something. Anyway, but what it boils down to is this is the back side of it. And this is how it'll look in the front. We're going to put rings. There'll be the eye rings here. They'll be on the wood, and there'll be the rings that we sew on to draw the string up. And so we have 2 drops plus the backdrop to protect the back of the fabric. On both sides of the soft fold Roman shade, I had showed you how I made my mark. I'm going to make a mark 1 inch out. It's just right next to the hem on both sides. That's where I'm going to sew my small crochet rings. And we're going to hem the edge of this all the way around. I'm going to hand stitch. I don't know how you hem, but I do like a little hidden stitch as opposed to like a regular whip stitch. I just come in here, go about 1/2 inch. I kind of hook that going sideways. Just a reminder about when you're laying things out, I always start with the bottom of the Roman shade and work my way up. That way if there are any errors while you're hanging it up, you can adjust it instead of having to adjust the hem. I'm attaching the ring on the edge of the hem where I had marked previously. I'm doing a little whip stitch to get that on there. No fewer than 5 stitches. Very careful not to make big stitches on this side. We don't want those to show. So I whip stitched about 5 times. And then stay stitch it 2 or 3 times. If you want your Roman shade to pull from the left, have all the works on the left, then you put it on the right and vice versa, because we're doing it reverse. We're inside out, basically. I run it through the eye hook, run it through the rings, however many you need for yours. We only have 2. I usually put in 4 just regular square knots. Pull it real tight. There you go. Then the next portion of it is how much cording you're going to have hang on the outside for you to be able to pull. And so I'm going to do a quick measure to the bottom from the eye ring up on the board to the last ring on the bottom of the shade. I'll run this in here. Later on, I'm slipping this on so I keep track of it, but later on, once I get up in the window, then I'll be able to put the right knot in it, so that way we'll have a level shade. I'm measuring both sides of the inside of the window, and they both come out to be 35 inches exactly, and that's what I will do on my fabric to mount it to the board. I'm measuring all the way across and making marks where the board will be attached to the little shade. I'm lining up all my lines to be adjacent with the boards. I'm flipping it over and I'm stapling with my staple gun. Now I'll be honest with you, if you chose to use hot glue, that would work pretty good too. I have dangerous hot glue. I try to stay away with it. Stay away from it. Get these spots first. I marked. I'm clipping off the excess so you can't see that. Crazy. It's not much of a cut. But anyway, it's always better to be a little too long than too short. I'm putting my drywall screw into that. I'm going all the way in and back out. That way we can see how the fabric behaves, and it didn't pull the fabric. But anyway, we've got putting the screws in before we get up there. It's a lot easier to manage. I'm going to put the other screw in too. Hanging the cleat inside the frame, and I'm hanging it a little bit higher than where she'll normally keep it hung. That way it's hidden from view most of the time. She told me she wants to have it hang below this break in the window. So if we have it up here, it won't be noticeable at all. The front of the board is flush with the outside of the window frame. You can see here the screw kind of ate that fabric a little bit. If it pulls too much when you're screwing it in, just stop, back out, and clip a little hole around it on both sides of the fabric. You do not want that to pull because it can ruin the entire thing of fabric. Again, on this side you can see that I'm flush up here, and you did see that fabric just kind of jacked up a little bit. You gotta watch for that. Screw that in real tight, and let's see how that works. So let's say you're screwing this in and it doesn't really stick, it's just sheetrock, and you don't have a stud, which is that piece of wood underneath the sheetrock, to hold it. Go ahead and use one of these kind of mollies. Create your hole, then screw this in, and then the screw goes inside this. It's the perfect solution to a problem that you could have. Okay, I'm putting the iron back on it. I would like it to be just a little bit wider and take these little last minute wrinkles out. This is my tassel, little plastic tassel. And so anyway, I'm going to just go ahead and I straightened out the Roman shade. I made it land right, and so what I'm going to do is just do a double knot here. Anyway, there we go. So here we are pulling it up and kind of putting it in the appropriate place, winding up the cord.